Oh yeah, football is back, bitches. And I'll tell you what, all these clips and the news about Colts training camp right now has me absolutely fired up. Not only as a fan of the team, of course, as a fan of the team, right? I mean, that's one side of it. But the other side of it is football. Like, I love the game of football so much. Like, as a football fan, the times of the year when there is not football, it really just like dark times. I mean, like it could literally be June, right? May, the most beautiful weather of the season. And I don't even care because there's no football going on. I mean, that's how much I've been waiting for this moment and seeing all the news, the clips, everything that we're seeing about Colts training camp right now has me really missing being in Indianapolis, being in Graham Park. You know, for those of you guys who don't know, I'm like across the country, right? I'm in New York. The last 2 years, I did go out of my way to travel to Indianapolis to watch training camp to make sure I could come to you guys. This year just was not in the cards for a reason that you'll find out about eventually. And trust me, it was all worth it in the end. But as of right now, I am missing it because there is nothing better than being able to watch the practices in their entirety. Like, of course, we get to see clips, we get to see tweets, but that's not the full experience. There's something. Number one, Grand Park, Colts training camp. What a time they put on. I mean, it's really not just about a football practice. Like, it's an amazing affair. And I don't know if every team's training camp is this way. This is the only one I've been to. But man, it's a fun time. If you're in the Indianapolis area, you're a Colts fan, and you have not been to Colts training camp, what the heck are you doing? I mean, you're absolutely missing out. You're talking, what is it, $10 to park? Something like that. And just a great day, really, is what it is. It's an absolutely great time to go watch the team practice. And again, just being able to see it in person. And then for me, being able to take that all in and then come to you guys is really a firsthand source, right? Boots on the ground and explain what I'm seeing. It is something that was a privilege to me the past couple years and something I plan to continue after this season. But as of right now, what it is what it is. I'm subjected to the same information that you guys have available to you. That being said, I am absolutely glued to my phone, making sure I don't miss anything because, quite frankly, even if I can't provide you the news in real time, I do want to make sure that I can come to you and give you some level of insight. Sure, I may not be on the ball like I'm walking out of camp and doing a live stream. I may not have all that going for me, but ultimately, you know, the media availability, the reporters, the videos that we're getting, I want to try to give you my interpretation of all that stuff and share what I think are kind of not the most important talking points. I guess maybe the most important talking points, the things that stuck out to me that we have seen since basically July 22nd till tonight when I speak to you. And hopefully I'll give you a little something that you haven't heard from other people. And the good news is we have a whole ton to talk about. And thank God, because up until this point, I was kind of resorting to position previews like a fucking mook. I mean, which that was boring as all hell, putting myself to sleep while recording it. This, on the other hand, though, much, much more exciting. Again, I'm fired up right now, if you can't tell. So we're going to break down this episode into a few sections, which of course will all be timestamped for your convenience. So if you're like, Justin, would you get to the point? Why don't you get to the point? Okay. The timestamps are in the description of the video. If you're on YouTube, you just pull up the little red bar that shows the time. You can skip to wherever it is that you want to be. Okay. We're going to go into media availability and some of what I thought was said there that was interesting. And then we're going to go, of course, to the things that we're hearing and seeing on the field and the implications of that, or I suppose let me rephrase myself, the potential implications of those things, because ultimately it's very, very early in the process. You're talking, as I record this, only 2 days of training camp down. So it's a little early to make really conclusive judgments, but there are some really, really interesting things already popping up out of Colts training camp. Yes, if you're anything like me, you've probably already heard some of these updates from other sources, but I'm going to go deep into my thoughts on all of those updates. Meaning that if you're a Colts fan, a diehard Colts fan, and you're keeping up with everything, do not worry. You worry not. Going to make sure that you still learn a little something, hopefully, by the end of this episode, and we're going to talk about it all. But before we do, you know what it is? I got to introduce myself. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride on the Bench Colts podcast, doing our very first podcast of the 2025-2026 football season. or at least kind of, right? I mean, they're out there throwing the footballs. They're out there with the helmets. I mean, we're somewhere within the vicinity of football. It's something like that, right? Right? Either way, as always, I ask, if you're watching on YouTube, shoot it a like, help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We're on our way to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube channel. So if you keep coming back, enjoying the show, perhaps it's your first day here and you're liking what you're seeing, today's the day. Could be the day you subscribe. You never miss another episode. Again, audio listeners, leave a five-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying the show, but most importantly, be civil in the comment section with one another. I believe all of you in Indiana call that Hoosier hospitality, right? You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard is going through today, right? If you see someone that you disagree with, simply take it as an opportunity to facilitate a nice little discussion. That's all we want to do here. One episode at a time. Make a more educated Colts fan base, make a more rational Colts fan base, perhaps make a more objective Colts fan base. That's the goal of what it is that we do over here on this channel. But without further ado, let's get back into the regularly scheduled programming. I'm going to actually play the media availability clips that I've taken the time to kind of pull up and get to the exact timestamp on the video to give you a little context as to what it is that I am talking about. So allow me just a moment as I continue to speak and filibuster to kind of get that stuff up and rolling for you. Give me 1 second here. Share screen. All right. You got to share the tab because if you don't, the sound doesn't pop up, allegedly. All right. There we go. You got a little Chris Ballard going on for those of you not looking at the screen. And let's get to what it is that I thought he said that was interesting.
This will be a pretty physical training camp. Okay. And Shane and I've had long talks about that. This game is still, look, toughness still wins. It does. And I think that, we're limited enough as it is without pads. And the NFL and I think football in general has done an unbelievable job taking the head out of the game. Okay. They're teaching much different than they did 10, 15 years ago. They've taken the head out of the game, but it's still a physical game. All right. And I think to be physical, you have to practice physical. You do. So I think you'll see a little switch there.
All right. Pretty cool. Listen, I like to hear that, right? How could you possibly not like to hear that out of Chris Ballard? Now, of course, those are just words and things have to actually play out. But I will say this. When I had gone to training camp the past 2 years, the first year I went, the practices were flying around at practice. And it's not so much to say that last year they weren't practicing hard, but there was a little less intensity, a little less urgency. And this is, of course, in 2020 hindsight. But again, like the first year I went, when Steichen was first hired, when Richardson was first made the quarterback, when he was first drafted, those were intense practices in 2023. Last year, I don't know if it is that they got a little complacent or what it is that was going on, but obviously the season went how it went, right? And ultimately the team did play a lot of undisciplined football throughout the course of the year. So those are the types of things that do show up in training camp, in preseason. That's the value of being there. If you know what you're looking for when you go to training camp, which is why I recommend you go, you can really have kind of an inside track to what it is that you're about to see from the Indianapolis Colts. Hopefully, seemingly, what we saw at the practices last year at Grand Park for training camp, kind of a lesson learned for the Indianapolis Colts going into this year. Again, a lot of talk right now. It's day 2 of veterans sitting, and guys are like, well, how is this conducive to the plan that you're saying where we have to be physical and you have to be conditioned? Listen, I will say this. There is a fine line, and I'm not saying the Colts are towing it the right way. I would just like food for thought here for you. There's a fine line between conditioning and being reckless with someone's body. And it's a very tough thing to manage. The Colts are going to try their best to do it. We're going to see if they get it done successfully. But to have guys, the idea of having to ramp up into physical activity is a very, very real thing. The intensity of a practice, sure, these guys are going out and doing their thing in the offseason, but it's kind of hard to replicate that practice feel and the intensity of a practice when you're not there. So I listen, it's hot outside, right? Dehydration, all this stuff. It's the middle of July, really, I guess the back end of July. It's hot. That's the point. So listen, I have no problem with them trying to preserve the players a little bit, but when the pads come on, like going into next week, as they really ramp this thing up, we need to see if what Chris Ballard is saying is legit. when he's talking about, and one thing Chris Ballard doesn't do, you may not like the truth he tells you, but he tries to tell you the truth to the best of his ability. So if he's saying him and Shane Steichen made it a point, an emphasis to say, hey, we're going to make sure to get on these boys' asses. Hey, yo, if we're going to get on their ass this year and make sure that this is an intense physical training camp, this is something we like to hear. This should be music to the ears. Should be like Ozzy Osbourne, R.I.P. This should be like War Pigs, right? It should be playing in your head, thinking about the Colts having an intense training camp. If that's a focus of theirs, something that we like to hear. Next, I want to show you some of the stuff we heard from the defensive players, because I think it alludes to kind of something from last year and hopefully something that's going to be different this year that's sort of on the same theme. So allow me once again to pull up the screen share, the tab share, if you will. Let's see where we're at here. And where are we? Is that the one? Is that the one? All right, we're going to start off with D-Buck. Let's see it.
Kenny said, like, personality-wise, like, he's the captain of the defense. What stuck out to you personality-wise about
Lou?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I just love his how blunt he is. He's straight to the point. He don't sugarcoat nothing, and that's the type of coach that I've always loved throughout my career. You know what I mean? Like, how am I supposed to know how to get better if my coach doesn't tell me? And so it doesn't matter who you are. You know what I mean? All Pro, Pro Bowl, or to the lowest guy on the totem pole. I mean, Lou's going to tell you if you messed up, and he's going to tell you that's not how he wants it, and he's going to tell you, this is the way you should do it. So that's what I appreciate about him.
You got a new coordinator, but how crazy?
Okay, that's one of them. And then let's see if I could simply find my way to the next one, which is Zaire Franklin. By the way, if you haven't seen you watch the whole thing, that Zaire Franklin, his whole media availability on the 22nd, I mean, you're going to love it. But this is just one piece of it that I found to be particularly compelling. Let's get to business here.
We talked to Buck, and he said how last year he thought it was the worst defensive performance you guys have had. And then the changes were made, coordinator and the free agents. Do you applaud those moves, and are you really eager for what this defense can be?
Man, I'm extremely looking forward to this year. I just, with the addition of Lou, just a breath of fresh air. Everybody's back at a level of zero of accountability, which is much needed, from all pro to undrafted. When you got a new person in, it allows everybody to get a fresh start and like I said, give a fresh opportunity for a first impression. And then obviously with the additions that we got, there's definitely great energy in the building. Definitely, especially those guys coming from winning cultures. That's the biggest thing for me. At this point, we need everybody to show up and be who they say they are. So if you're a leader, show up and be a leader. If you're a playmaker, show up and be a playmaker. And if everybody show up and be who they be and we come together as a team, we'll be very successful.
Yeah. Talk your shit, boy. Love that out of Zaire Franklin. Not for anything. It's time for everyone to be who they say they are. In many ways, that's a fucking bar out of Zaire Franklin. And I'll tell you, I'm back on Team Zaire. Listen, I think we all were a little upset this offseason, and I thought some of the criticism was a bit unwarranted in the sense people saying, like, he ain't working hard and this type of thing. Zaire Franklin is a guy who has always gotten it from the mud, okay? Like, it is what it is. A seventh-round pick. He had nothing handed to him, okay? So I've never questioned the work ethic of Zaire Franklin or how seriously he was taking things. Sure, he made mistakes, but some of the things that, and I didn't even go to Kenny Moore's, but when they asked DeForest Buckner about Lou Anarumo, they had said, yeah, like Kenny, the thing that Kenny Moore said he liked about Lou Anarumo is that, he's the boss. He's going to come in there. He means business, this type of thing. To hear DeForest Buckner say, yeah, I like that he's blunt. I like that he tells us how it is. By the way, that's an East Coast thing. That's a New York thing. I know Indiana in the Eastern time zone somehow, but Lou Anarumo from Staten Island, New York, that bit of his personality, not to say you couldn't have this if you weren't from New York, but that's very New York of Lou Anarumo to hear that type of stuff. And then for a guy like Zaire Franklin to come out and talk about the idea of accountability, how everyone's back at zero and they have to earn their place. And it's a breath of fresh air that everyone has to come in and prove themselves to this coach. To hear those types of things does kind of allude. And again, I'm taking a step, right? I'm saying this is what they're saying. Let me tell you what they're not saying. I think when you heard things about accountability and complacency last year on the Colts, a lot of it maybe I think was on the defensive side of the ball and related to Gus Bradley. I think that's in part, of course, why he's out of a job. You had to get rid of someone after what happened. But nonetheless, to hear those things, like, for example, when DeForest Buckner, when he says what sticks out to you about Lou, and he says he's blunt, he lets us know how it is. If I messed up, he's going to let me know about it. To say something like that sticks out, for it to stick out, you have to understand, like, sure, he's just saying that, but for it to stick out to you means that that's not what you're used to. Because if that's what you were used to, it would not stick out. Does that make sense? If that would just be status quo. So like if Lou Anarumo, the consistency you're hearing from the players is that he's going to let you know about it, and that's something they appreciate. In my personal opinion, that does allude to the fact that perhaps they didn't feel there was enough of that prior, because if not, they wouldn't be calling it something like a welcome change of pace or a breath of fresh air, or kind of something that sticks out, right? It would not stick out if that's what they were already experiencing last year. So I think very encouraging to hear this stuff from the defense. And then while we're on the topic of the defense, which has really been the story of training camp, right? Of course, you have the quarterback battle going on, but right now, the defense winning against the offense, which people are saying is status quo. I don't know if that is or isn't true. To some degree, I'd imagine it is, because the complexities of the offense and, getting everyone on the same page, so much about the timing. Defense is reactive. Offense is a little more proactive. So I could see how that would be true, but that's not excuse for playing bad football, neither here nor there. But I want to go to Shane Steichen being asked about Charvarius Ward. I mean, just a lot of great takeaways on the defensive side of the ball so far, or at least things that feel like great takeaways on the defensive side of the ball so far. So allow me to pull that up. Shane Steichen being asked about Charvarius Ward, and here it is.
Ward and team activities. What was your impression?
For those of you who are watching, look at his face. Look at Shane Steichen's face. He says Charvarius Ward, I don't know who the reporter was, unfortunately. No disrespect to you, sir. Just can't recognize the voice. Says Charvarius Ward and team activities. And look at the look on Shane Steichen's face. Oh, gosh.
Very impressed. Great signing by Chris to get him on this football team. You saw how sticky he was in the plays he made. I don't know how many he made today, but he made a ton. So great to have him out there.
I mean, listen, there's nothing surprising, right, about the fact that Charvarius Ward is coming out and giving the Colts good work. But Shane Steichen's the type of guy as a coach, and particularly in a press conference, that really isn't going to try to give you much. Like, he's going to very much do the coach speak. He's going to kind of just keep it cookie cutter. Like, he's not going to really try to give anything away. He's not going to tip his hat, if you will, or tip his hand. I don't know what the hell the saying is. Doesn't matter. Point being, to see him smirk like that about Charvarius Ward is really something that should make Colts fans very, very happy, because right now you do look at the secondary, and I suppose this is me now working into the on-the-field stuff. You look at the Colts secondary, of course you have the optimism about Charvarius Ward, but you also really, one of the biggest stories out of training camp is that to start, Justin Wally, third-round rookie, who many people projected, and we'll get into that a little bit more, projected to move into the slot as sort of a predecessor to Kenny Moore and kind of let him develop. He's getting starting reps on the outside in a spot that has been Jalen Jones up to this point, right? Jalen Jones has been the Colts' best outside corner for the past 2 years. Now, that doesn't say anything great about the Colts corner room, and I think Jalen Jones is a dog. Like, I think he's a damn good football player. But you figured with Charvarius Ward, okay, Jalen Jones fits perfectly now into that second corner role, and then you had a guy like Wally who was kind of going to be versatile, go in and out, whatever it is that they needed him to do. But for the Colts coaching staff right now, the things they've said about him in OTAs and what they're saying about him headed into training camp, and then them putting their money where their mouth is, to have Justin Wally starting on the outside over Jalen Jones, who's played in big games for this team, has made big plays, had a great rookie season as a seventh-round pick, has earned it, right? Has started 27 of 28 possible games, I believe, in his career up to this point, or something like that. Point being is this guy is a guy that the guys in the secondary are familiar with. They trust all of this stuff. Like, Jalen Jones is a good football player. If they think today, to start his rookie year before he's played a single snap, they think Justin Wally is better than Jalen Jones, that says a lot about what potentially Justin Wally has been showing. And I wish I was in person to tell you exactly what it is that they're seeing, but they're seeing something. I can tell you that right now. There's been breadcrumbs of this throughout the offseason, and then, of course, now to see him start in training camp. And I'll tell you, if he's better than Jalen Jones, you're talking about a better than expected corner room for the Colts, and it was already somewhere they invested, right? Charvarius Ward, Kenny Moore, Pro Bowl, All-Pro talents, right? And then you have Justin Wally, Jalen Jones, who's played a lot of games, Juju Brents, who, listen, he's had a problem staying healthy, but when you're talking about a guy that's potentially in some sort of backup rotational spot as an outside corner, there's been no problems with his production when he's been on the field. Perhaps being on the field a little less, he can preserve his health a little bit and then grow into his body a little more, right? That right there, and Samuel Womack, I thought he did good stuff for the Colts when he was playing. I mean, you're talking about a corner room that has a real good chance. And that's not only good news for the defense, it's good news for the offense, and it's good news for the quarterbacks, because if you're getting over on the guys that the Colts have right now in the secondary, quite possibly, you might have an easier time than perhaps you did going into last year as a passer. This is all hypothetical, of course, but what I'm saying is of great benefit to have the talent on the back end of the secondary right now that the Indianapolis Colts have. A great benefit to the offense, and particularly those quarterbacks who really ultimately are what it all comes down to. Unfortunately, a team goes how the quarterback goes, but you got to be real happy about the stuff that you're hearing about the Colts secondary right now. And again, Justin Wally, that's a big story. I know everyone's saying that's a big story. That's a big story. Like a rookie coming in and doing well is not unheard of. Richard Sherman, 5th round pick, came in and was a big deal. Tariq Woolen was a guy, 6th round pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Look at the Seahawks go. Richard Sherman, Tariq Woolen. Point being, it's not unheard of for a guy that's not a 1st, 2nd round pick to come in the NFL and be a good corner in his rookie year. And right now, Wally, I'm going to keep saying it. Justin Wally, a fellow Justin, we don't mind this at all. If he is actually better than Jalen Jones, that's a fucking good football player. And that's something to be excited about. Keeping it on the defensive side of the ball, Joe Bocci, a guy getting quite a bit of reps. He was getting reps in OTAs, great. But now he's getting most of the reps for Zaire Franklin, from what I understand, and not for anything. That's very interesting, because we were kind of looking at Jalen Carley's and Sagan Olabi and and Cam McGrone. That was disrespectful. The point, I knew their names. We were looking at those guys and saying, all right, they've been around, but do keep in mind Joe Bocci, and I was on this a little bit, but I didn't realize he would be in ahead of some of those guys. He was with Luan Rumo in Cincinnati for a while, sure, as a reserve, as a special teams player, but nonetheless, understanding the system. It's not like he was behind scrubs in Cincinnati, okay? They had Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson, and Amir Gaither-Davis, okay? Those are good linebackers, so it's not like he was behind bums, okay? For him to come in and kind of be right there at the top of the linebacker rotation, he might be a guy that plays an impact for the Colts. It's one of those positions right now that we don't have a lot of answers. It's not that there's no one that can perform for the Colts. Like, we kind of like Jalen Carley's upside. We like what Sagan Olabi brings to the table, particularly as a downhill run-stopping type of guy. Cam McGrone's been around on the team for a while, but Joe Bocci now, if he could come in and play too, the Colts have a linebacking core that you can at least feel optimistic about going into the season. And listen, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's bad offense or good defense. I know last year when I went to training camp, my lion eyes told me that I was looking at a good defense when in actuality it was shitty offense. This year, we're going to see if that's a little bit different. The Colts on paper are a defense that really has a chance. And I don't know. I mean, we're going to see how this thing progresses. The offense has to clean it up. Of course, the quarterback battle happening. None of them have separated themselves, but really a lot going on the defensive side of the ball to be interested in right now. I saw a clip of Neville Gallimore, Grover Stewart getting fired up about him, and really an individual drill. If Big Grove is fired up, and he was pushing Grove back. I mean, Grove's a strong guy. To see Neville Gallimore fire out and give him a little, right? Give him a little bit of the nasty. I don't mind. Hey, yo, I don't mind that at all out of Neville Gallimore. And Chris Ballard's been, just obviously very, very high on him. I believe I've heard DeForest Buckner talk about Neville Gallimore. Point being, the Colts potentially, really the big story for me right now, and what I'm looking at is just how good can this defense be, and just how good has it gotten? Like, what did they accomplish this offseason by doing what they did? It's going to be something to pay attention to. And if nothing else, if the offense continues to look bad, what we can hope for is that at minimum, it's because the defense is good, and perhaps the offense will look better against different defenses. The joint scrimmages, when those things come, are going to be a big deal. But right now, those are the big things for me for training camp to get this thing started. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm fired up, and not for anything. I went from not having expectations to the Colts. I'm back, motherfucker. I mean, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in, and that's where we're at. We're excited. It's that time of the year, and my goodness, we're just getting started. So that was an episode. Those were the training camp takeaways that I have to kind of start this thing off. I'll be back soon. You'll see me soon. But until then, my name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. Like, subscribe if you have not yet. And as always, go Colts.